Hello everyone, and welcome back to an updated car profile. What do I mean by updated? Well, we retest the cars that have had their balance of performance change. If you do like this video, do give it a like, do subscribe to the channel. And first up, if you can't already tell in the background, we're looking at the Porsche 911 RSR. Now here are the low, medium and high speed BOPs. You can see specifically the low is the one that has changed. It's actually lost 5 horsepower. And what we will do is just test that car on the low speed circuit and not the medium and high speed, because we've already done that test. There's no need to redo that test at all here, really. We only have to redo the low speed BOP test. Now, it's not the only car we are going to be looking at here in this video, because we have a lot of cars to test. We really do. So what is the next car that we're going to be looking at? Well, it's in the background for you. It is the Alfa Romeo 4C that you can see right there. Now, this Alfa Romeo 4C, this has always been a bit of an interesting car. Very stable car, to be honest with you. And you can see some of the BOP changes there, specifically around the weight. The weight has really dropped on the medium and high-speed BOP area. So it'll be interesting to see how it reacts to that, really. The low speed hasn't been changed at all, which I find a bit bizarre, to be honest with you, because this car has never been towards the forefront of Group 3. So I would have expected a low speed change. It hasn't happened, but we'll see where it ends up on the medium and high speed BOP. We're not going to test it on the low speed circuit. Finally, we have the Audi R8 LMS Evo. Now, we know this car is at the forefront now. We really do. We've seen it at Spa very recently. It's been going very quick. It's always been a fast car, but also very unstable. We know in Gran Turismo, weight transfer is a big issue, and that's where it suffers. However, as you can see here, by the BOP change, it's actually had some weight reduced in the medium and high speed. It hasn't changed in the low speed area. Now, if your memories recall to some of the previous car profiles, the low speed is actually where the Audi is already dominant. So it's had some buffs in the medium and high speed. It'll be interesting to see where this car ends up in the end. So you can see that the high speed BOP has changed with additional horsepower as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at each of the BOP tests, and we'll pick one of the cars for each of them. So first up, it's got to be the Porsche. It's the only one that's had a low-speed BOP change. So let's jump into that now. If you're new to car profiles, we're looking at Laguna Seca for this low-speed BOP test. And if you want to have a look at the detailed car profile, we're going to the nuts and bolts of these cars, talking about them in a bit more detail. You can check the profiles in the playlist in the description, or I'll link a couple of them at the very end of the video. I can't link all the videos. We are racing the Audi R8 LMS Evo here. Unfortunately for that, we are a little bit up here, 5,000. So this Porsche 911 looking and feeling very good here at Laguna Seca as we go up to this left-hander. Remember, it's been nerfed here. It's not gained a buff here. It's not increasing horsepower. It decreased in horsepower. It's 5 horsepower down. I think it was 5 horsepower from memory when we looked at that figure. As we go to this kink here, I felt the car was so confident in the kink. It really was. I could just absolutely send it into that kink. Absolutely not a problem at all. Come towards the corkscrew where some MR cars do suffer here, but this car, while it does suffer a little bit, nothing major. And with the reduction in horsepower, it didn't actually wheel spin as much as we went down the corkscrew. And speaking of that reduction in power, one thing MR cars suffer with is when they've got a lot of horsepower, the front end really lifts up. It lifts up a lot and it forces a lot of understeer. The reduction in power, I feel, has actually helped the car and really helped the car a lot, to be honest with you. We are down on the Audi R8 at the moment. We saw that in Sector 2. See where it ends up in Sector 3 then as we head towards the line here, and it's still down. It's 1/10 down on the Audi R8, so it's still very much up there. Still very much at the forefront here at Laguna Seca, this Porsche 911. So that nerf, not really done much to it. And again, as I believe, it's actually helped it a little bit. Okay, and you can see right here, in rank 2, the Porsche 911 sits there. It's actually improved the time, only by 1/10. Now, that could easily be just me being on a better performance that day. It could mean anything, but I believe that nerf hasn't done anything to the car. The car still performs absolutely fantastic here at Laguna Seca. Now, the Audi R8 was highlighted in green. It's just to show you where the time sits, essentially. I've taken the old time out already because the time is identical. There's no need to show it. Now, we're going to get to the next page, and I believe the Alfa Romeo 4C is going to be on there. So, I'm a bit unsure why that hasn't been upgraded, to be honest with you, the Alfa Romeo 4C, because it's a bit shocking here, to be honest with you. But we'll see how it handles the medium and high speed. Maybe it's just really dominant there now, and we can have a look at that. The Porsche 911 there has improved its time on there. It's actually the fastest car at the moment that we've updated on the test. Now, we jump to the Audi R8 LMS Evo here. It was the fastest car over the fastest lap there at Laguna Seca. We're now jumping to Suzuka for this medium speed BOP test. Remember, when we're looking at those times in the bottom right hand side, that's comparing against the fastest lap. But what we look at on those leaderboards is the optimum time. So I should have clarified that earlier on in the video. We're racing that BMW M6 GT3 Sprint model then as we come through the right-hander. And what we're going to be looking at here is that first sector. We're 1.5 tenths down then on the BMW. That BMW is so good in that sector. It really is dominant there. It's just unexplainable, to be honest, why it's so good at the handling. We're going to head towards Tidgney 1 then. This Audi R8 didn't really struggle too much with that little bump there. And as we come into this right-hander, it really felt nice and stable, actually. It really did. Now, going into turn 1 as well, I haven't talked about that. Actually, we'll talk about the hairpin first of all here as we head down in towards this left-hander, slowing the car down nicely, and then we're going to continue on out of here. Let me talk about turn 1. With the reduction in weight, turn 1 is actually a bit easier in this car. Previously in MR cars, turn 1 is a big factor here at Suzuka. It's downhill a little bit, the weight likes to transition, you get a lot of oversteer. A reduction in weight, you can definitely tell it's a little bit easier into turn 1 to handle this car, which does mean it performs a little bit better. We're into the second part of Spoon then, we're just suffering, we're trying to get it round there, but it is one of the better cars in terms of handling. It's not the best car in terms of handling and downforce. Right, we're going to head towards the end of Sector 3 then. We're going to see where we end up versus that BMW M6 GT3 car. And, oh, hello, we're up here by 1/10 of a second, going into 130R. Looking at 149 miles an hour. We dropped to 148 there. Remember, their best cars are around 150 miles an hour, so it's a little bit down there in terms of the high-speed corners. Where this car is very good is accelerating. Acceleration out of corners. A big acceleration period anyway. It just excels there. As we head towards the line then, are we going to beat the BMW M6? Yes, we are. We're actually the first car ever in the 58 on a fastest lap. We have seen it in Optimums, but of course, fastest laps, we've never seen a 58. So that is really interesting to see. That's going to be the new fastest car. So we're racing the Audi R8 LMS Evo twice now. Now here is the leaderboard to the Porsche 911. We haven't retested it. That's just where it sits. The Audi R8 goes into P2 then on the leaderboard with a 158.911 in terms of its Optimum. Now, where does the Alfa Romeo 4C sit? So the old car, version 1.43, is in P20 right now. P20. And the new version is in P23. It's not changed at all. Now, it has lost horsepower and lost weight. But it's like they've just readjusted the car to try and get it a bit better handling. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when we get to that BOP test. But there we can see, once again, the Alfa Romeo is sort of sat in no man's land, to be honest with you. We've improved greatly in terms of the Audi. We haven't improved at all in terms of the Alfa Romeo. The Alfa Romeo was retested here, just to clarify. We are going to jump to the Alfa Romeo then for this final test, the high-speed test then, as we head towards turn number 1. Now, with this car, it does carry a lot of weight and a lot of power as well, and that's the way it's been bopped. Now, that weight over the rear wheels has actually helped it a lot in terms of getting the wheels planted on the exit of corners, so it doesn't suffer with wheels being on exit too much, to be honest with you, this car. It really doesn't. Now, as we head towards the end of Sector 1, we are up here on the BMW M6 GT3 Endurance model then, so a half temp up as we go into this right-hander. Now, this is where the car starts to suffer a little bit. It still struggles with handling this car, it really does. So, obviously, it's got a lot of power, but it's got a lot of weight. Guess what happens? The front lifts up a little bit more. So, when you start to accelerate, you start to get understeer in this car, and it still suffers with it even now. I can see what they've tried to do with this BOP, but I don't feel it's actually worked that much. Do you see here, we're going up the mountain now, and it's not too shabby in this moment here. We are going to have to lift a little bit there. I'm trying to do it flat. I can't really do it versus the Audi R8, which I also tested here. It just can't carry the same amount of speed. It just struggles with that handling. It's that additional weight, in my opinion, which is causing the issue as we go down here. Then we are 6.5 tenths down that BMW. Now, critically, I want to talk going down this downhill section. MR cars struggle here at the dipper, but compared with the Audi, the Alfa struggles in the braking zone on going down the hill here at Bathurst. The Audi just struggles on the dipper, and that's the weight transition of the car as it settles down. But as you go into the braking zone in the Alfa, that's where it was spinning out a lot for me. It could handle the dipper quite nice. To be honest, it seemed to settle quite quickly. Whereas the Audi got to the dipper section, and then it just would spin round. Very different sort of aspects there. The Audi still struggled with the dipper, putting that out there right now. But the Alfa didn't struggle with the dipper, just struggled under braking. And I felt like a Suzuka as well. It still seems the Alfa has got serious issues in braking zones with that weight wanting to come round very quickly. The second you go downhill and you have a weight transition, that's where this car struggles. We're going to head towards the end of the lap though then as we go into this left-hander and going to continue on out of here and head towards the line. We're already a second down. Are we going to gain any of that time back? And no, we're not. We're still 1.1 seconds down that BMW M6 GT3. And the question is, where does the Audi fit in all of this as we look towards the leaderboards? Just point out as well, so some people may question this, well, the Porsche 911, by the way, is sat there right now, P7. I haven't retested it. That's just where it currently sits with the BOP it already had. But just to point out as well, remember, we do 1 outlap and then 10 fast laps. The Audi R8 LMS Evo now in the 2-minute ones there, 0.988. Now, I did actually get some solid odd sectors in there. Obviously, the MRs did struggle. I did crash a lot as well. As we go to the next page then, where the Alfa Romeo is now in the 202.296. That is also ahead of its predecessor as well. In fact, the predecessors are right here then. So P32 for the old Alfa Romeo. So it's very close, actually. So again, that's where the BOP hasn't really changed it. They've just tried to make it better. But the old Audi R8, that's improved a lot. A heck of a lot. So it's had lost weight and gained power on the high-speed circuit. And that's had a massive impact. Now, we've seen that at Spa recently. The Audi R8 LMS Evo is actually one of the most dominant cars. We were here with the fuel test then, so on the left-hand side, we're not doing the automatic test here. We are literally looking at the power shift and the fuel map, and him on the right side for the Alfa Romeo. Because this is a high-speed BOP, we can retest these. I've not retested the Porsche because the Porsche high-speed BOP hasn't changed. We're just looking at the fuel on the high-speed BOP here for these two cars to see what's changed. We're going to head towards the line then, and the Audi R8 LMS Evo finishes first in that top left-hand side, and you can see it's got 64% fuel. But it got there quicker. So arguably, it's still better than the Alfa Romeo in a fuel race, as we see the Alfa come across the line there a little bit later on. Can't quite see those times there. Just going to try and zoom in a little bit. So what's that? 10th different there. Down in the bottom then, here we go with the Audi, and the Audi finishes first there on the half shift, 71% fuel. The Alfa, again, on the same sort of fuel. So they're very similar in terms of fuel usage, these cars. But performance-wise, the Audi is winning. And we're seeing that right here as the Alfa Romeo crosses the line there. And that's 1.5 tenths difference. So that's quite significant in my opinion. Obviously, you extrapolate that over a race, and that's suddenly going to add up to seconds very, very quickly. Right, let's have a look at all these leaderboards then. Where do all these cars sit? Well, they're not in the top 10 there. Still some cars to retest here in that top 10. Of course, this is all about performance. Performance in terms of accelerating towards that line. If you can fuel save and still gain performance, you're a winner. And look at that. The Audi R8 LMS Evo is sat there. Weirdly, the Alfa Romeo 4C has actually lost out there. So, obviously, it lost a little bit of weight, but it also lost a little bit of horsepower. The big one for me, personally, is that Audi R8. Because, look, it's gone from P30 into the top 20. That's a big difference. We're going to take note of that, actually, when we go into some of the other tests, just to see how big of a difference that is. But that's had a significant change there. With that horsepower gain and that weight loss, it's really benefited the car absolutely massively. So we're going to the half shift then. This is where we look at the fuel, of course. And we know that the Alfa and the Audi have the same fuel. So wherever they sit in terms of performance is the car you would probably pick then for the race. So P17 there, 25.350 there for the Audi R8. Fuel-wise, it's very good as well. It's the highest fuel load there in that top 20. So the Audi's looking really good at the moment. Really good indeed in terms of fuel usage. And you can see it gains a 10.5. Just in this small test, it gains a 10.5 in terms of time. As you can see here, this is where some of the other sort of higher fuel loads sit, but slower time. So that Audi R8 now is very good on fuel. Very, very, very good. Because of that horsepower gain and the weight loss, it's very good on fuel indeed. And we're seeing that right here then. We go to the automatic fuel map 3 test. Now, you didn't actually see this test, of course. This is where we're driving automatic. We just change the fuel map, and we'll see where these cars sit then. I'm assuming the Audi is still in there. Yes, it is indeed. The Alfa Romeo, it did actually gain 1% fuel there, it looks like, in the tests there. So it did save a little bit more than the Audi, but the Audi is still very dominant in my opinion. Very, very dominant. Porsche we didn't test here, of course, because the high-speed BOP hasn't changed. So the times wouldn't change and the fuel wouldn't change. There's no point testing that. You can just see where the current car BOP sits with the green icon. Audi R8 LMS Evo then goes from P31 all the way into that top 20. Again, it's a significant upgrade for that Audi R8. It really is a massive upgrade. I'm expecting to see that Audi R8 or Audi as a manufacturer potentially going to the World Finals again. It'd be nice to see. Obviously, I've done it in GT Sport. It'd be nice to see Audi there trying to reclaim some sort of reward. Again, P17 for the Audi R8 there, 71% fuel. Literally the highest fuel load in that top 20, or in terms of P11 to P20. I didn't quite remember what was on the first page there. And then we go to this page here where everybody else sits there. You can see that everybody very close. So that Audi is brilliant. It's actually brilliant. It's really awesome to see. Obviously, I'm a big Audi fan. You know this. I love Audi. I represented them in GT Sports at the live events. It's nice to see the car doing absolutely awesome now in terms of the BOP, but it's looking pretty strong in my opinion. So that's all the fuel tests done. We are going to do a tyre test. Now, because it's at the low-speed BOP, I'm not retesting the Audi or the Alfa Romeo. I am, however, retesting the Porsche 911 RSR because the low-speed BOP has changed. And I'd like to see the difference, actually. So remember, it lost 5 horsepower. So we're going to see whether that's actually benefited the tyres or not. Now we go to lap 5, which is a good lap to go to. It's sort of bang average in the grand scheme of it. It's got quite a lot of tyre wear left there in that bottom left-hand side as we go through the right-hander here. So it's actually doing all right here, the Porsche. As we head towards this right-hander then, we turn in and we're going to accelerate through. Now with that horsepower reduction, you expect less wheel spin on the rear tyres. And obviously it's rear-wheel drive. Less wheel spin means obviously less tyre wear. And it's just lost the final bit of tyre there. What we do in terms of this tyre test, if you're new to these car profiles, we add up the 4 laps and then anything on the remaining lap. Obviously, if you've done 5 laps, it's all 5 and then add the remaining. We essentially just add up the time in terms of how long the tyre lasted. And what we're going to do here is look at the results. So it hasn't made the top 10, any car there in terms of the Porsche. Obviously, we're not retesting the Audi or the Alfa here. It's just the Porsche and where the Porsche sits. So we're going to go to page 2 where it's going down. Oh, okay. P20. That's not too bad at all for the Porsche. Very surprised in my voice as well because I can't remember where this happened. This happened a few days ago in terms of the test. That's actually a big increase. It gained 10 spots then, the Porsche. So it actually 8 seconds lasting longer. So that literally reduction in wheel spin in the Porsche 911 has actually helped in terms of tyre wear. Now, you could actually alter that with driving, and that test does have the ability to have me wheel spinning a bit more, locking the brakes, just having issues there. You can see that impact. Now, the Alfa Romeo there, the reduction in power, this is taken at Bathurst, of course. You can see that drop, so that does explain the difference at Bathurst then. It's just a readjustment. It's just a readjustment. We can see here the Audi R8 has actually gained a mile an hour as well. So we had the Alfa reduced, the Audi has gained. They're on the same there as we go to the 3rd page then. We're not going to see any difference here, especially in the Porsche as well, because we haven't retested the Porsche. But very interesting to see the Alfa lost a mile an hour and the Audi gained a mile an hour. Really interesting to see. Really, really interesting to see. What we are going to do then is go to the final results. The final results are, of course, all 3 BOPs added up. So for these cars, it's a low, medium, and high speed, even if we haven't retested it. And the Porsche gained. The Porsche's gained there. We know it did improve at Laguna, so it's actually gone to the top of the leaderboards. It's the meta car. And the Audi R8 comes in as well. Shows it is also a meta car, the Audi R8. I mean, if we could go a little bit better at the dipper in the Audi R8, it would be so close to that Porsche, if not ahead of it, actually, in terms of this. So do keep that in mind. If you actually just look at the low and medium speed test, I'm pretty sure the Audi is actually at the top. But probably something I should look at a little bit more there. Alfa Romeo 4C. I've not actually seen it yet. Where is it? There it is. It's the same. They've had the change. They've reduced the horsepower. They've reduced the weight. It's still in the same place. So it's purposely put in the same place, in my opinion. Purposely put there, the Alfa Romeo 4C. Now, folks, that is going to be it in terms of this first major update for 3 cars. We do have a lot of tests still to go. Do bear that in mind. I know some of you are going to be going, Tidge, why aren't you retesting all the cars at all the tracks? That's a lot of time. I don't feel the BOP will have... but no BOP change will have meant that the tests change very little. Yes, there's a potential that it could improve or may not improve. It's a case of me at time of day, things can happen, human interaction can happen. If the test is literally a tenth different, nothing much really changes. If it's significant, like at Bathurst for the Audi R8, and that's because of the BOP test. That's the reason why that car has changed so dramatically, and you saw that in the fuel test as well. That's why I'm doing the retest, and only the retest where there's been a BOP change, so do keep that in mind. That's going to be it for me, though, in terms of this video. Do keep an eye out for car profile updates in the future. We are going to be retesting more cars. The order has been set. I'm hoping the patch doesn't change too much. Maybe give the Alfa a little bit of a buff. That would be appreciated. 2 videos there to check out then in terms of the Audi R8, the previous car profile, and also the Alfa Romeo, because they're the big changes. But that is going to be it for me, folks. 2 companies there to check out, of course, UTME, Get and Finetech. They help the channel out massively, and I really do appreciate you using the codes and linked in the description. That's it for me. Thank you once again for watching, and I hope to see you in another video or live stream again very soon.